This is PROpulsion, the financial professional's catalyst to exponential growth. Are you a driven and ambitious financial professional, but you're finding it hard to break through to the next level? Or are you struggling to build and run your practice successfully? Join Francois du Toit, a leading consultant and trainer, as he interviews not only the experts, but also people you have never heard of before, but who have done amazing things, about how they run their practices, the challenges they face, how they overcome those challenges, their failures, which tech has improved their business, how their revenue models work, and other practical aspects. We go deep so you can learn as much as possible. And here is your host, Francois du Toit.
What can I say about my guest? It's just, and there's something I want to ask her right before we get into the interview itself, but I'll leave that for after the intro. But Juanita Vorster, she's an entrepreneur, she's a business author and a speaker, and a phenomenal one at that. And she's also known as the next CEO expert. And she is a self-proclaimed old millennial energy. So I want to ask her what that means exactly. And she's also the founder and strategist at that point. And we're going to get, I want to ask her about what they do because, some interesting things there. And she's also a former radio presenter, which means I have my job cut out for me. But on that note, so let's go over and introduce Juanita to you and get into a fantastic, energetic discussion this morning. Good morning, Juanita. Welcome.
Good morning, Francois. Baie dankie.
Yes, the show just got a lot more better this morning. Like, not because of the other presenter. I mean, in general, like the whole show for me is now just elevated this morning because I have you here. So now I've got my job cut out for me in the coming episodes. But a warm welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for saying hi. Like, there wasn't even a story. I just asked Juanita, like, I wanted to ask you for so long. And now you have this book. Please, will you come on? It's not a big show. It's like we're very niche and very specific. And you said, of course. And you made my day. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Small is
Awesome.
Usually better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's more intimate. So, Juanita, let's start off with sort of where did it all start for you and a little bit of a background. I don't think anybody can introduce you better than you can yourself. But where did it all start for you? Where did it start for you, Juanita? How did you get into this? Because there's something that you sort of said that it resonated with me so much. And it's something that I think a lot of us are aspiring to, is to say, well, you started off as an employee, then moved to self-employed and eventually employer. And now you do all these wonderful things that you're doing. So I'm very keen to hear where did it start for you and what that journey's been like.
I might actually leave the introduction up to you because you made me sound way more impressive than I am, Francois. It hasn't really started, or there wasn't a moment that whatever it is, really started. There's no extraordinary story to tell. There's no moment in time that everything changed or came together. My life is kind of one of average. It's an average life. It's a middle-class life. Nothing extreme, nothing extraordinary. My life and my story is a series of points that are seemingly unextraordinary, just completely ordinary. But when you put them together, they start telling a story of, I want to kind of call it intuitive success. So there's no one moment, one story, one start at which point it started. It was all to do with my habit, which is, sometimes a really good habit, sometimes a really bad habit of saying yes to opportunities and then figuring out how I'm going to make do with these opportunities, kind of building the plane as I fly it. So a few of the defining moments in my life was when I was in Standard 7, way back when we still called them standards. And my parents found this opportunity that you could do homeschooling. I said, yes, let's do that, because school was really boring. I didn't understand the social factor of it. It took too long. It bored me. And it ended up with me being able to write my matric, my last year, at the age of 16. And then I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a plan. So I found out you can only really start your life in South Africa at the age of 18. 16 is kind of an in-between year. So I had 2 in-between years touring the country with various teams, doing ministry to a bunch of school kids, and learning kind of that there is no one set way to do life. You can have different options. You can make different choices. And then the time came when I was 18. I had to grow up now and decide what I wanted to study. I went through all of the options and didn't really find something that interested me. You know, when they ask you in school, what do you want to be when you grow up? I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So I didn't really know what to do. And then there you go. You know, who wants to grow up and who wants to know what the plan is going to be? Let's rather have some flexibility. There you go. And so I said, well, what is the thing? Because I've quickly realized that you need a piece of paper to get a job. So I said, what is the piece of paper that I'm going to get with the lowest amount of effort, the quickest, so that I can really start life, so I can start actually figuring out what I want to do with life? Someone told me about public relations. And I said, well, that's a 3-year course, giving me a diploma. You don't need a degree for it. Here we go. So I studied public relations because it was quick and easy. I got my national diploma and started working in not public relations. I started working for a software company, and the guys I worked with taught me about graphic design. They taught me to code. I learned about this whole new world that had nothing to do with what I studied or with my background or what my parents did, but it opened up new things for me. Then I left and did not PR. And so on it went. And I did various things within the sales and marketing sphere. I was never really satisfied with what I learned. Something was missing. I wanted to know more. I wanted to something was missing. And then it went on and I became really good at marketing and went through my career. And I always wanted to know, well, how do I get that top seat? How do I get to the CEO seat? And through research and so on, I realized that marketing people don't get to the top seat. Finance people do. But here's the problem. When it comes to the numbers, this brain kind of shuts down and says, nope, I do not have a natural ability to work with numbers. So I had to find another way, but I had no plan whatsoever. Until a friend from college phoned me and said, I am immigrating. Do you want half of my PR agency and run it from here? So of course, story of my life, I said yes, completely unprepared, having no plan of what I wanted business to look like, having had no business studying experience, reading no business development books, and having no picture in my mind of what I would want my business to look like one day. And I think that is, if you want to say, where did it start? I think it started there, because all of the lessons I've learned in business as an entrepreneur and that I advise other people on now was based on, I said yes, I made a promise. I've got to keep this promise. I'm not going about it the traditional way. So what is going to work for my clients and what is going to work for me based on, as Norma said, my values. That's how it started. Fast forward a few years later, I met Roger Harrop. We seemed to click really well. He was twice my age, from the UK. There was no reason for us to meet, but we saw business exactly the same way. We said life can be simple, success can be simple. We've got this passion to share our stories, to share our lessons with others. And that brought about the 2 books.
Awesome. And that was sort of my next question, is just around, like, how did you and Roger meet? Because like it obviously, because this thing about saying yes, it's an amazing thing. And I think, has it always been easy for you just to say yes? Or was it sort of awkward that first time? You just said, from the inside, like you want to say yes and you have to say yes, but you were still a little bit afraid of the unknown. Or was it just all in, and because you were young, like it didn't matter, because like when we're young, we don't think about what can go wrong. We just think about this is going to be awesome, and the older you get, the more difficult that seems to become. But then, I mean, as far as I have the story, like you actually like read something and then you just decided to walk up to this guy. Like, is that what you did?
Pretty much, yes. So that's what I'm saying. It could sometimes be a bad habit, because that fear that I hear other people have when they consider opportunities seem to not be built into my DNA. I miss that part. My story is always, yes, that's a great opportunity. It makes sense for my intuition. So I do not always say yes. You can ask my team, you can ask people around me. I am the first one to say no and stick to it when it does not make sense. But if my gut says yes, I listen to it, I go for it. And then usually, a day or two later, I go, really? Was that really the right option? How on earth are you going to get this done? And then suddenly this opportunity becomes this overwhelming mountain range. But I made the promise, so I've got to keep it.
And I want to add that when you said like you made a promise to show up and to do, and like it took me now back to last year, because that's how this show was born. Is one, well, I didn't just say yes. I was freaking afraid of what was going to happen to my business in lockdown. That was the thing. But then I made a commitment openly to say, I'm going to be here every single day. And this is how we got to where we are today. That was just the start. I mean, there's lots that happened in between, and people that was very gracious towards the show and connected us with people. And there's a whole host of things that sort of obviously came together. But the first decision was like deciding to just show up and to stick to that commitment, and that's probably also like yes and committing. Those two things are definitely, they go together. So I want to get into the book. And the book is called Staying in the Helicopter. And then what's that byline? The key to sustainable growth.
The key to sustained profitable growth, not silver bullet overnight once off profitability and give me the money and then run, but sustained profitable growth.
So why a helicopter?
Right, so why a helicopter? Now I need to introduce Roger Harrop to you really quickly. So Roger from the UK, he has a similar story to mine, a little bit different start to it, but very much the end becomes a lot similar. He was a very young CEO appointed for his first company, also had to learn quite a few lessons, engineer by trade. So he had to learn how to run a business, how to be a CEO, how to be accountable to a board, etc. He ran one of the biggest PLCs in the UK. And so he learned all of these lessons. And then one day he was retrenched with no notice. And he also said, well, what now? What do I want to do now? And Roger told me the story when I was visiting him in 2019 in Oxford, or in Watlington in Oxfordshire. We were walking to go to a cafe for lunch. And I asked him, Roger, how did this start? What is your story? Because we've talked about the work thing now, but what is your story? And he said, when he got retrenched, as you go through the feelings, he had a few decisions to make. Do I apply for another job? Do I do my own thing? And he said, his big decision was whatever he does, whatever he decides, he's going to have fun every single day. And then he said, well, that fun for him is not back in big corporate anymore. That fun for him was going to be to help others to simplify success, which is, me, completely different side of the world. That's what I intended to do as well. And so he started putting together a program based on all of the lessons that he's learned, and the structure based on all of the lessons he's learned running this big PLC and running all of these other companies. And he said the big thing for him was to be able to stay in the helicopter, to not just look at the big picture, because you can, go stand somewhere and look at the big picture, and you can step away and look at the big picture. But what you really need to do as a business leader, as someone running or involved in running a business, is have the ability and create the ability to stay in the helicopter so you can view the big picture from different levels. So that's Roger's structure. And to answer your previous question, how did Roger and I meet? And yes, it started with, I picked up his second book, Win, How to Succeed in the New Game of Business, picked it up, read the back and said, well, hang on, this is how I run my business. Surely someone can't be paid to speak about this and to write about this and to make a living from this, because this is how business happens. And then I ended up next to Roger during the lunch, at the closing lunch of the conference we happened to both be at. Of course, I sat down and I said, you, Roger Harrop, I read the back of your book. Surely this is how everybody runs their business. And he says, you will be surprised, but no. And that got us talking. And we were both surprised by seeing how similarly we saw business and how different it seemed to be from what was being taught in traditional business schools, from a formalized education point of view. And we were both really passionate during that lunch about saying it can be different, it can be simple, and you can have fun every single day. You can increase professional success while decreasing personal success, or decreasing personal stress, because both Roger and I have done it. So the helicopter is about more than the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's and I love that analogy, and also, I mean, there's this thing about like yesterday we went to the licensing department because my driver's license expired, or not expired, it's about to expire. So for the first time, I think in forever, I actually went there to renew it before that happens, albeit like a couple of days before. But I was that's not the point. So as we were driving up, and now I'm so aware of this whole helicopter thing, thanks to you, because first I watched that little clip of yours on LinkedIn the other day, and that's sort of where, like, that caught my eye again. I thought, like, yes, I got to talk to this woman because she takes a day out and then she goes sit in a helicopter the whole day. And then, like, I used to do that sometimes, but I haven't done it for such a long time. But as we were driving up, there's a little like airfield right there. As you come like up the hill and you go down to the licensing department, there's this airstrip there, and there's a guy there practicing flying a helicopter. So he's obviously busy with his license, or I don't know what he's doing, just getting his hours, blah, blah, blah. But he was hovering like very close to the ground, and then he flies like, and then like sort of the things that comes to mind if you think about a helicopter. Obviously, the first helicopter we all think of is Airwolf, of course.
Your millennialism is showing.
Yes. But I'm sidetracking myself. But the thing about this helicopter, and also I was in a helicopter once, like when I was still at one of the big corporates, and we were at a conference at Sun City. Part of the thing was that we went on this helicopter thing. And I will never forget how this guy went, like he was flying up, and then as we came up, he dropped that helicopter on a pin, like right down, and went down. And I think that's one of the things about a helicopter, apart from the fact that you can go very high with this thing can like pivot like at a point. It's not like a plane. If you were using a plane, you'd go all the way, like, you know, like when you're on a plane, it goes very slowly and turns like a boat basically. Whereas a helicopter can almost turn on a pin, just obviously not breaking all the rules of gravity. But that's the thing. So it's an agile kind of thing. So you can go high, but you can also be agile. And I think that's sort of something that is special. Is that something that you took into account when you and Roger were writing this?
So staying in the helicopter was Roger's structure. So where I come in is the updates and the new, and the looking at it from a business owner perspective, not an employed CEO perspective, and a young female perspective, an entrepreneur, and a self-start, and all of those. So I bring the updates into Roger's strategy, or into Roger's structure. But yes, when he told me about staying in the helicopter, I immediately resonate, because just a year before that, I was spending not a lot of time in helicopters, but I had the privilege to be in several helicopters on a bunch of South Africa's most prestigious game farms, because they were one of our clients. They asked us to do their social media for them. And part of social media for a group of game breeders was to take photos and to capture photos. And they were very nonchalant about, getting into the helicopter and just going somewhere. We're used to, if we want to see game in South Africa, no, they're not in our backyards. We need to get into the game drive vehicle and go for it. And here they just said, oh, we saw something in the field, get into the helicopter. And that was my first time, so there was no big ceremony, and didn't look forward to, I'm going to be in a helicopter, it's going to be so wonderful. I kind of had to get in, figure out how to do the 5-point strap connection thing, and put on the headset while they were already lifting off. And the first helicopter pilot I ever had a broken leg. So his crutches were at the side, broken leg, because it's okay. You can still do the helicopter. Yes, I promise you, I will send you the photo, Francois. And my first experience in the helicopter was that it is incredibly noisy outside that bubble of the helicopter. Incredibly noisy. But inside, it's calm. The amount of wind and resistance outside this helicopter, because I wanted to stick the camera out, to get a video, and it was literally going like this. Bring it just back in. It's calm. It's an environment where you can think. That was my first realization. The second one was how much and how far you can see from a helicopter, as well as how much detail you can see. So not up close, obviously, but you were able to see the game farm, the horizon, the everything, as well as, and it was really, really overgrown at that stage, as well as the small springbuck, the small impala that was standing underneath the bush. And you could see them, not little blobs, but you could see almost the detail in them while you were seeing the big picture. And that's the magic of a helicopter versus a plane for me. On top of its agility and its ability to hover at different levels and just be in the air while at a complete standstill while you survey the environment, it was that big and small at the same time. And that's what I was reminded of when Roger told me about his staying in the helicopter. It was that as business leaders, we've got to know the details of our business, but we can't get lost in those details. We need to have the ability to know the details, and we need to have the ability to look at those details from such a height that we can see it as a whole and that we can manage it as a whole so that we don't get lost, stuck with that little impala hiding under the bush.
Yeah, just like I'd never even thought of that. And I mean, it's so true. It is, once you're inside, so it's, I don't even have to add anything to that. That was, it just, that explains the entire thing.
Maybe the other thing was, that was a little, my dad would call it a lappendraad. Just a little helicopter. So it's got this bubble and this little tail, and you can kind of fall out of it if you really wanted to. Then I was with a few of the others in a fancy helicopter. And the fanciest helicopter had a door, a nice plush seats like you see on TV and the movies and stuff. And I was so frustrated in that luxury helicopter because I could not get close. I only had a little window to look out from. So while the interior was really luxurious here to my right, all I wanted to do was able to get that helicopter view, but I couldn't because I only had this window to look through and my camera couldn't get out and I couldn't get down. So staying in the helicopter is not supposed to be a comfortable environment where you sit and someone flies you. Staying in the helicopter is supposed to be the quickest, leanest helicopter you can get so you can hang out of the side and do what needs to be done so that you can achieve that sustained profitable growth that we talk about in the first chapter.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I want to get into a few of the things in the book. And I haven't been able to read the whole book, but there's some things that I want to share at the end, some things that I shared that I absolutely love about this book. So I'm going to leave that for at the end because I want to share my experience with you and say, because I almost read through the book. And there's a few things that I want to share with you about the book, not the contents necessarily. We're going to get into some of the contents now, but like what was my experience with the book and how did what am I getting from the book at this point? So that's what I want to share at the end, right?
Awesome.
But this book starts off with what is the real objective? And that sort of, boom, like hit me, like, yes. And also that it's actually a moving target. Like if you really think about this, like this thing that I want you to share, like what is the real objective? But let's start there, Juanita, like you're in any business, because I think it doesn't matter where you're a one-person business or you have a multinational or even an international business. This is the same for all businesses. And what is that objective?
Yeah, you've got to know what the real objective is. And there's a reason we called it the real objective and not the word that we then use in that chapter. There's been a lot that's been said about purpose, but the way Roger and I in this book approach purpose is different from how it's become known and how it's become famous at this stage. Purpose is not the fluffy stuff that makes you feel warm inside. Not in this scenario. The real objective of any business is that business can either contract or grow, but it never stands still. And as a business leader, you've got to decide whether the purpose of the business is to sell it or to grow it. There is no other choice. You can't just have a business. You can't just live in the business. You can't just maintain a business. Are you going to sell it or are you going to grow it? You have no other choice. And then once you've made that choice, you run the business in a certain way to either sell it for the best price possible or to achieve sustained profitable growth. And when you're an employed CEO, so you're not the business owner, but you run the company on behalf of someone else, you've got to know what the purpose of the owners are. So not all the shareholders necessarily, sometimes in some companies, yes, the shareholders, but sometimes it's just that one person or that one family, whoever you're running the business for. What is the purpose of the business? Is it to sell it to the highest bidder, or is it to grow it? And Roger tells the story where he was appointed as CEO once, and he made the mistake of assuming that he was supposed to grow the business, and he's almost lost his job because of it. And I had the experience, my own business, talking about the moving target. I started my business as a response to someone that gave me an opportunity, and it fit in with where my life was going at that stage. My husband and I were deciding to start a family, so I said, well, this business will give me an opportunity to have more freedom, to be at home with the kids and all of those nice things. So it started out, the purpose of the business started out as being a lifestyle company to just fund the type of lifestyle I want to have. And then as the kids grew up and I started employing people, etc., it was in this lull phase of, it can't be the same as it was when I was on my own, but it's not a big company and I kind of don't know. So about 2 years of running the company, but not with a real objective in mind. So then I had to say, well, what is the purpose of my business now? Same business, same company, same everything, but what is the purpose of this business now? Am I going to sell it or do I want to grow it? And for me, the purpose at that stage when I had to make the decision was, I am going to grow it. Right, how do you grow a business? And that's where the rest of the levels of staying in the helicopter comes in.
Unmute. And that is where the thing is to start. And I think there was a story in there as well where there was another business, because he's worked in quite an interesting array of businesses. Like,
look, I think Roger's 75 this year, or 74 or something. So, when we talk about the amount of stories we've got to tell, he needs to keep on reminding me that he's got a few years on me.
Yeah, don't worry. Just tell me what you need. I'll give you a story.
There you go.
But it was the story where even different families, there was a family in a business where some were involved and some were not involved. And then like the animosity that started between them actually, and then how they then got in a room and it took them like 4 meetings to figure out what this purpose is. But once they did, everybody started pulling in the same direction. So there's these powerful stories that illustrate just how important this is. And it's interesting to me that you say that there's only two things. I'm sure there's somebody here today like that's going to say to you, no, Juanita, I have a lifestyle business. So therefore, like, this is only like, all I want to do is just live my life and I want to do good work. I don't necessarily want to grow. I just want to maintain what I have. So obviously, I mean, does that, like, and I'll say this like now, just to play devil's advocate, okay? Is that then a business? Or is this just being self-employed? Is it a business?
It is a business that is not necessarily going to be a business for much longer. And the reason I say this is from personal experience. Just maintaining, just lifestyle. The catch is, while your business stays the same, everything outside of it, including your clients, change. So if you run your business to keep it exactly the same, to not grow, to just fund your lifestyle, to just make it comfortable, to just anything, you're not going to keep your eye on what's happening outside. And that just is then after a while not going to be enough to keep up with all of the changes. So by growth, I'm not talking about huge scaling. We're not talking about exponential growth. We're not talking about turning a lifestyle company into a massively listed conglomerate. That's not what growth is necessarily. But you need to understand that even if you want to have a business that is just for you, you need to view it from a growth perspective, because inflation, we all know, prices go up, people start asking you for discounts, markets change, environments change, new technologies arrive, which are putting all of the services, all of the products we have under threat. So if you're just running it in the same way over a long enough period of time, your market is going to change so much so that your business is going to have to either adapt and grow or close down.
I think that's such an important point. And it means that you need a plan, and you need to seriously focus, and you need to get into the helicopter, in my opinion. There's a host of things that I still want to talk to you about, but I'm going to break it down just to two last things for now. Just want to mention that this book, from that point, although it starts with a real objective, there's actually a lot of time. If you look at the number of pages in the book and how much time is spent on that, it is actually the most significant part in the book, almost, like getting it started right. And then it starts breaking down into laying the foundation and the direction. And then the one section that I really enjoyed is called the shape, the shape of your business. Because there's something there that was highlighted that I'm going like, spotlight. Okay, I'm seeing what's going on. And there's this where they talk about, like, the businesses that do well are usually market leaders. And there's only sort of three things in which you can, or there are three basic drivers for that. So you're either a market leader because of your operational excellence, or because of your product and process innovation, or because of your customer intimacy. Yeah. It's one of those three things. And I don't know if it's possible to combine some of these things, but usually like one of these are your main driver, and this is the thing that you get known for, and this is why people love you over and above anybody else that does what you do. But there was one specific thing that I want you to talk about with this, is that, there's this thing about price and perceived value. So can you just allude on that just a little bit? They need to go buy the book to go read that, because that for me was phenomenal. But what is just talk me through the price and perceived value and how this links to these market leader or the basic drivers of being a market leader.
Absolutely. I'm trying to find that price and perception matrix in our book. We explain it in a lot more detail in the second book called Win. There you go. When it's been printed. So staying in the helicopter is still at the printers. It's going to be printed in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think. But this is the graphic. There you go. That Francois is talking about on page 57 of Win. And it says that all buyers have one job. Their job is to get you to sell whatever it is you sell at the lowest price possible as a commodity. It's just a website design. It's just financial planning advice. It is just a chocolate. It is just mind pump. It is just whatever it is. Give me the lowest price because I can get it anyway. That is the job of the buyer. They need to buy on the lowest price possible. It is the job of you, if you're the salesperson, or of your sales team, if you're managing a sales team or have a sales team, to not sell on price, but to sell on perceived value. And the shape of the business has a lot to do with it. If you are a business who's a market leader in operational excellence, and you can only be a market leader in one, you've got to be at least market average, but preferably more than average in the other two, but you can only be a market leader in one. So if you sell on operational excellence, it's all about price, it's all about margins, it's all about getting that lowest cost product quickly, in a standard, within quality, etc. Then you sell on price. If the shape of your business is to be a market leader in product or process innovation, new stuff, or in customer excellence, you've got to sell on perceived value. So it's your job, or the job of your salespeople, to not sell the specs of the product or service, but the problems it solves, the value it adds, the changes it can make, the next phase of the customer when they deal with you and when they buy your product or service. So the price is not one of the top 3 things that you or your salespeople sell on. You've got to know what the value is to them of your products and services.
Yeah, and that's not easy to do. So I think for a lot of people, that is the hardest. It's something we talk a lot about on the show, is about value and one value proposition, but also then how do you deliver your value? How do you explain your value? How do you articulate it? And how do you get that message across? And how to see your own value?
Yes.
Because I think often we don't believe that. I mean, that's like you went to Roger almost and saying like, can't be this simple. Like, how do we run this? Like, surely everybody's doing this. And then you realize like, no, like there's a lot of winging going on out there, I assume.
There's a lot of winging going on. Speaking about helicopters and planes, yes.
You should be rotating and not winging. Okay, so how much time, I'm sorry, how much time should I be spending in the helicopter? Juanita, I think that's important for me to know.
How much time should and how much time do, two different things. And you mentioned the video that I did last week, and that was last week before. I think it was last week. And that was done on a whim, that video. As you said, now, we're not necessarily comfortable talking about ourselves. Me too. I'm more comfortable talking about, doing the actual work, doing the planning, doing the coaching for business executives, doing the master classes, doing the speeches, writing the books, talking to other people, giving them advice, sitting with executives and helping them plan their strategies. That's what I'm comfortable with. The moment people ask me about me, that kind of becomes, but that's not the important bit. So the video was uncomfortable to do, but in my gut, I felt it was necessary. And just look where it brought us, follow your gut, people, follow your gut. And then I had a lot of work to do, but my mind wasn't in a space where I could put heart and soul into it, and where I could lead my team and provide the direction that every business leader needs to provide. So I said, well, in the book, Roger, I say, you've got to take 1 day a week to do helicopter. And I'll share a tip of how I've gotten to almost that. So once a quarter, once a month, whatever you can do, just start sometimes getting into the helicopter. Once a year, Bosberaad with a lot of other people does not count. That is not helicopter. That's actually details, believe it or not. Once a year, Bosberaad, two times a year, Bosberaad. That's not how it works. You yourself. So what I did is I said, I need to take a helicopter day. Got into my car, went to the closest park and just walked and said, well, because I know the helicopter structure, I am able to get into my helicopter and decide which level I want to spend time at then. And I said, today, I've got to just ruminate about the purpose of the business once again, because the purpose is the filter you put every decision through. And it's almost like magic, believe it or not. When you're clear on the purpose, every decision in business becomes so much easier. Yes, it might still be complex to execute, but the complication goes away almost. You get to the simple, clear, shiny light. This is where we need to go to. So I'm going to focus on the purpose that day and the values and the vision and the values. That for me was my focus areas that day. And it took me about 3 hours of sitting in a park and just going through the history of my business and just seeing, well, this is the purpose. That was the purpose then. That was where the purpose shifted. Is the purpose still the same? Or is it time for the purpose to change? No, purpose is still the same. Right. What's the next level in my helicopter? What's the vision for the business? Go back to what was the vision? What is it now? Right. Got the vision. And what's my grounding values? What am I not willing to give up to get to that vision, those aspirations, and that purpose? And it was like a light bulb moment. So it's not one big light bulb moment, but after 3 hours of sitting on a park bench, the head just spinning and spinning and spinning, I got my helicopter moment, my aha moment, and I was able to get back in my car, out of the helicopter, drive back and do what needs to be done to fulfill that purpose of my business and lead my team with belief and passion and courage in a direction that makes sense for the entire business and for our clients. So how often? Once a week would be great, but life happens, and I know the schedule of most CEOs. So how more often you can do it, the better. Here's the thing though, it doesn't matter about the frequency, it doesn't matter about the timing. The structure matters. The tick boxes of the helicopter is what matters. And if you read the book and if you've got the list, and that's why these books are so small. I'm going to show you one just now. It's a 4-hour book. It's tiny, tiny, tiny by design. There you go. Here's the proof copy of the helicopter. It is really short because we want it as reference books. We want these books to be thumbed through and bent and pages full because it's a reference book. It's not a fancy la-di-da book. If you go through all of those levels, whenever you get into the helicopter, so even if you've got a helicopter purpose day, and then a helicopter aspirations day, and a helicopter values, helicopter vision, helicopter customer, helicopter sales, helicopter shape, helicopter leadership day, that's okay. And that's how I've started to implement helicopter in my day-to-day business, not having a helicopter day through all of the levels, but making sure I check a relevant level at least on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and I guess the easiest way to make it happen is just to put the damn thing in your diary. Just do that.
Yep.
Like, it's not that hard. Just put the thing in your diary and then just stick to it. Don't think that, I can do something else with that time, or there's this important client. Like in financial advice, there's always this important client. Or at least that's what advisors tell broker consultants. But that's the thing. So don't let those things get in the way. This is more important. So this is how you start spending time on your business and in the helicopter.
This saves you time. Yeah, this saves you time on all of the other things. If you're clear on all of this, it's amazing how quickly you start making decisions and how quickly you answer and how quickly you do your calculations or your writing, whatever you need to do, because your brain knows exactly where you're going to and it's filtering everything through that. So instead of making a lot of micro decisions every day, is this right? You've got the main decision and you just focus on doing the work. That's what helicopter helps do. It helps you increase that success while decreasing your personal stress, because the main decisions are already made. And there's another thing, this is a little bit, motivational quote, put me on a poster. People often ask me, how do you get time for all of these things? You do not find time. You do not get time. You do not find time for things that are important. You make time for things that are important. Sometimes family is more important, so you make time for family. Sometimes helicopter is more important than the details at the bottom, so make time for the helicopter. And sometimes details are more important, so you make time. It's your choice. Put it in your diary and stick to your own choices. Make promises to yourself and keep them. Keep your promises to yourself.
Absolutely. Awesome. So as I promised, I wanted to share just my experience with the book and what I really found interesting with this book. And thanks for sharing the book with me before the time, because as you said, it's only being published now or being printed now.
Yeah.
So it'll be available. But the thing is that it's short and to the point. It's only 88 pages. So the helicopter book, so Staying in the Helicopter, is 88 pages. And that includes the all the legal stuff and the must-have and the topic list and all of that. It includes. It's not in like the total book cover to cover is 88 pages with some blank pages in between. So and then the other thing is what I think is really amazing is how and I haven't seen the other, but I haven't checked out one yet. But in this book specifically, what caught my eye was the QR codes, and that you try and make it interactive, so you can actually, as you go through the book, scan a QR code, watch Roger tell a story, or listen to him tell a story, or read an article, or there's so many things. And then there's this app that goes with the book where you can do assessments and all these wonderful things. So I was like, wow, this is something different. I've never experienced. I don't read a lot. I actually listen to books, but this, I'm so glad that I looked at this, and also the level of practicality backed by the stories, and it's so simple. It's such an easy read for me. I battle to read, specifically English, want ek mos nou eintlik van die Vrystaat af, né? So and I'm serious. Like, it's hard for me to. I've got plenty of books, but I think I'm more of a collector than a reader. So
and most people are these days.
It's such an easy read. So I just wanted to share that with you, Juanita, because that's what I really love about this book. Apart from all the things. Well, not all of it, but many of the things we all talk about, the mission, the values, the blah, 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 blah. But the way that you and Roger come at this and you explain and all the stories and all the things just makes it so practical, because I think often we don't understand what people are trying to tell us, like, what am I supposed to do? And we think there's this way that a mission statement should be done, or there's this way for everything that they should be like this and that. Why we never get in a helicopter, because we don't know how to do this stuff. So then my question is, where will the book be available to be purchased? Can you maybe share that?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. Here we go into the sales pitch. So you can already...
But you only have 2 minutes, because then we need to wrap it up. So short pitch.
Seconds. Yes.
Go.
The book is available for pre-order, and when is it already available for order? Through theceoexperts.com, or juanitavorster.com, and I'm sure the French will be able to put those links for you if you just do a Google.
Already there. Already
there.
down below. Yeah, already down below.
Staying in the Helicopter available for pre-order, and when is already available for order. It's also available as ebooks on Amazon, and Staying in the Helicopter will be in about 3 weeks. And if I can really do the final sales pitch, if you want to stay updated, follow me on LinkedIn, because I tend to post everything on there.
Yeah, awesome, because that was the last question. Where can we connect with you and with Roger?
I am on most social media platforms, but it seems that LinkedIn is my game. So please do go and connect with me on LinkedIn. I am not snooty. I accept all connection requests because business is about networking.
Yeah, absolutely. Juanita, it was an absolute privilege.
And
thank
for me as
you.
well. Thank
And you know what? I cancelled an entire segment for you because this was going so well, and I enjoyed it so much that I thought, screw the last segment.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, this is amazing. So I can talk. Like, there's so many things I have on here that I still wanted to touch on. It just isn't enough time.
Let's do a follow-up. Let's do a follow-up, even
Absolutely.
if on a different platform, or let's just have coffee.
I will be in touch.
There you go. There you go.
Awesome stuff, Juanita. Thank you so much to every single one of you that's been here this morning and for interacting. There's been a lot of interaction on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Thank you so much. I didn't see any questions come through, but a lot of people saying hi and a lot of people just saying how amazing this chat is this morning. So thank you to every single one of you. Tell other people about the show. Get the word out there. Please help us share on social media and get it out. And Juanita, thank you so much. Have a fantastic weekend. Trust me, I will be in touch via LinkedIn. Although now I can also do it via WhatsApp.
Yeah,
but on that note, so ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic weekend. I hope you had a lot of fun with us this morning. I didn't even have time to go get my coffee, so I'm going to have it now. But on that note, I'll see you soon. Same time, same place next week. And next week we have Lisa Linfield on the show, and also excited to chat to her. So until then, stay safe, keep well, and remember, raise the bar.
Thank you for listening to PROpulsion. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or your favorite podcasting platform. This will help us tremendously. For more about PROpulsion and other valuable information, please visit our website at propulsion.co.za.